In this chapter, we need to calculate the employee pay. The employee pay is how much the employee earned during that pay period. It's the total pay before any deductions. And it's made up of the regular earnings and any overtime earnings. Let's take a look at an example. In number 1, Jimmy Trofa earns $7.80 per hour and worked 41 hours during the most recent week. So what is the weekly gross pay? To calculate that, we know it's 41 hours worked at $7.80. 40 hours is part of the regular earnings. Any beyond 40 hours is considered overtime. So 40 hours times the rate, 780 cents, comes out to 312. Overtime earnings, we use the same rate, but times 1.5, it's times and a half. It's a premium for working beyond 40 hours in the week. So $7.80 times 1.5 times the number of overtime hours. In this case, it's just 1. So that comes out to $11.70. That's the overtime earnings. Combined with regular earnings, we have the total gross pay for the week. That's $323.70. In example number 2, Tyler earns $10.90 per hour and he worked 45 hours during the week. So 5 hours is the overtime hours. And it's $10.90 times 40 hours arrive at the regular earnings of $436. Next, the overtime earnings. What is that? That's the $10.90 per hour earned plus the premium, which you take times and a half, and then 5 hours of overtime. So that comes out to $81.75. Combine these two, regular earnings and overtime earnings, you have total gross pay earnings of $517.75. Now we've gone over what's called method 1. There's a second way to calculate the gross pay. And you will need to know that in this chapter. Let's go through it. Method 2. Using the example number 2. So there is 40 hours worked, right? 5 hours of the 40 is overtime, but a total of 45 hours. So what we do in this method 2 is pay at the regular rate. What is the regular rate? That's $10.90. And a total number of hours worked of 45 hours. Again, this is the total number of hours. Whereas in method 1, we use 40 hours for regular earnings and then 5 hours for overtime earnings. Here, we take a total, all hours combined. But what is the regular rate of all of these hours? It's $10.90. So $10.90 times 45 hours gets you $490.50. That's the pay at the regular rate, not regular earnings. It's pay at the regular rate. And the regular rate again is $10.90, and the total hours is 45 hours, so that's pay at the regular rate. Now, part of the hours is overtime. And there's 5 hours of overtime, right? And these 5 hours will not be at $10.90. It will be higher than $10.90. It's the overtime premium. And what is that balance? What is that amount that's over the regular rate? Well, we need to calculate that. We take the regular rate, $10.90, times 1.5 gets you $16.35. That's how much is being paid for overtime. And how much is this rate, this overtime rate, more than the regular rate? Well, take 1635 minus the regular rate, 1090, gets you $5.45 as the amount of overtime premium. And how many hours of overtime? 5 hours. Then take 5 hours times this overtime premium, 545. That gets you $27.25. So take the $27.25, which is the pay at the overtime premium, plus the pay at the regular rate. Okay. Add the two together and you arrive at the gross pay of $517.75. This total is the same as in method 1. It's the same result, but it's like slicing the pie a little differently. In method 1, we used the total regular earnings plus the total overtime earnings. Whereas in method 2, it's the earnings using the regular rate and the overtime premium amount. So look at here, it's 40 hours that we use at $10.90. Whereas here, $10.90, but we use 45 hours. And then here, it's 5 hours times the overtime rate. Here, in method 2, it's not the overtime rate, but it's the overtime premium. It's the amount of overtime paid that exceeds the regular pay, which is $5.45 times 5 hours of overtime. Method 1 is more logical, but you do need to know method 2 because we'll use this concept of calculation for later in the chapter. Moving forward to more gross pay calculation. In this example, Bridget earns a monthly salary of $6,200. During the most recent week, she worked 56 hours. So from that, we know it's 16 hours of overtime. We need to calculate the gross pay. We know gross pay is going to be made up of regular pay and overtime pay. So what is the regular pay? All right, regular pay for the week. Well, we don't know. Do we take this monthly amount, $6,200, and divide by 4? No, that would be wrong because then we will assume that the year is made up of 48 weeks, but that's not the case. It's 52 weeks. So therefore, we need to take this monthly salary, instead of divided by 4, we need to multiply by 12 months. 12 months times 6,200 to get us the annual salary. And then take the annual salary, divide by 52 weeks to get us the weekly regular wage. And that comes out to $1,430.77. Now that's the regular wage. What is the overtime wage? We know it's 16 hours to calculate it, but we don't know what is the overtime wage rate. And we don't know, so we could calculate it though. The overtime wage rate would be times and a half of the regular wage rate. And what is the regular wage rate? Well, we don't know. But we do know the total regular wage, which is $1,430.77. So take 1430.77 divide by 40 hours to get us the regular wage rate. And that comes out to $35.77. We know overtime is times and a half, so that's 1.5. And we take 1.5 times the regular wage rate. That gets us the overtime wage rate. Now this is what we want. $53.66, the overtime wage rate. And we times 16 hours right here gets us $858.56. That's the overtime wage pay. So overtime wage pay combined with regular wage pay gets us the total gross pay. All right. We do the same in this example 2. However, this example 2, Betsy earns a semi-monthly salary of $2,200. Semi-monthly. Semi-monthly, again, we need to annualize it. So we need to multiply by 24 semi-monthly periods. Take the 2,200 times 24 semi-monthly periods to get us the amount for the year. And then divide by 52 weeks. Comes out to $1,015.38. That's the regular pay. Now, what is the overtime pay? We know it's 9 hours of overtime, but we don't know the overtime wage rate. We know the regular wage rate only when we do a calculation. So we have the regular wage pay of $1,015.38. Let's do that. Equals 1,015.38. Divide by 40 hours. Comes out to $25.38. That is the regular wage rate, and then multiply by 1.5 gets us the overtime wage rate of $38.07. We need to round it correctly to 2 decimal places. So here I need to get rid of this 45 in the decimal here. So that way I have the correct rounding as per instruction, because the instruction says should be rounded to 2 decimal places at each calculation. So here when I did this calculation, I needed to round it to 0.38. And hence I have overtime wage rate of $38.07, and that times 9 hours comes out to $342.63. That's my overtime pay. Combined with regular pay equals the gross pay, $13.58.01.